Part 9 of The Matchless Orinda. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Poems by the most deservedly admired Mrs. Katherine Phillips, The Matchless Orinda. Part 9. Poems 81 to 90. 81. Song, to the tune of Adieu, Phyllis. 'Tis true our life is but a long disease, made up of real pain and seeming ease. You stars who these entangled fortunes give, O tell me why it is so hard to die, yet such a task to live? If with some pleasure we our griefs betray, it costs us dearer than it can repay. For time or fortune all things so devours, our hopes are crossed, or else the object lost, ere we can call it ours. 82. An epitaph on my honoured mother-in-law, Mrs. Phillips of Porthenown, in Cardiganshire, who died January 1st, 1663. Reader, stay, it is but just, thou dost not tread on common dust. For underneath this stone does lie one whose name can never die, who from an honoured lineage sprung, was to another matched young, whose happiness she ever sought, one blessing was and many brought. And to her spouse her faith did prove by 15 pledges of their love. But when by death of him deprived, an honourable widow lived, full 24 years, wherein, though she had much afflicted been, saw many of her children fall, and public ruin threaten all, yet from above assisted, she both did and suffered worthily. She to the crown and church adhered, and in their sorrows them revered, with piety which knew no strife, but was as sober as her life, a furnished table, open door, that for her friends, this for the poor, she kept. Yet did her fortune find too narrow for her nobler mind, which seeking objects to relieve, did food to many orphans give, who in her life no want did know, but all the poor are orphans now. Yet hold, her fame is much too safe to need a written epitaph. Her fame was so confessed that she can never here forgotten be, till Cardigan itself become to its own ruined heaps a tomb. 83. Lucasia, Rosania, and Orinda, parting at a fountain, July 1663. Here, here are our enjoyments done. And since the love and grief we wear forbids us either word or tear, and art wants here expression, see nature furnish us with one. The kind and mournful nymph which here inhabits in her humble cells, no longer her own sorrow tells, nor for it now concerned appears, but for our parting sheds these tears. Unless she may afflicted be, lest we should doubt her innocence, since she hath lost her best pretence unto a matchless purity, our love being clearer far than she. Cold as the streams that from her flow, or, if her privater recess of greater coldness can express, then cold as those dark beds of snow our hearts are at this parting blow. But time, that has both wings and feet, our suffering minutes being spent, will visit us with new content, and sure if kindness be so sweet, 'tis harder to forget than meet. Then though the sad adieu we say, yet as the wine we hither bring, revives and then exalts the spring, so let our hopes to meet allay the fears and sorrows of this day. 84. A farewell to Rosania. My dear Rosania, sometimes be so kind, to think upon the friend thou leav'st behind, and wish thee here to make thy joys complete, or else me there to share thy blest retreat. But to the heart which for thy loss doth mourn, the kindest thought is that of quick return. 85. To my Lady Anne Boyle, saying I looked angrily upon her. Adored Valeria, and can you conclude Orinda lost in such ingratitude, and so misspell the language of my face, when in my heart you have so great a place? Ah, be assured I could no look direct to you not full of passion and respect. Or if my looks have played that treacherous part, and so much misinterpreted my heart, I shall forgive them that one falsehood less than all their folly and their ugliness. And had much rather choose they should appear always unhandsome, than once unsincere. But I must thank your error, which procures me such obliging jealousy as yours. For at that quarrel I can ne'er repine, which shows your kindness, though it questions mine. To your concern I pardon your distrust, and prize your love, even when it is unjust. 86. On the Welsh Language. If honour to an ancient name be due, or riches challenge it for one that's new, the British language claims in either sense, both for its age and for its opulence. But all great things must be from us removed, to be with higher reverence beloved. So landscapes which in prospects distant lie, with greater wonder draw the pleased eye. Is not great Troy to one dark ruin hurled, once the famed scene of all the fighting world? Where's Athens now, to whom Rome learning owes, and the safe laurels that adorned her brows? A strange reverse of fate she did endure, never once greater than she's now obscure. Even Rome herself can but some footsteps show of Scipio's times, or those of Cicero. And as the Roman and the Grecian state, the British fell, the spoil of time and fate. But though the language hath the beauty lost, yet she has still some great remains to boast. For 'twas in that the sacred bards of old in deathless numbers did their thoughts unfold. In groves, by rivers, and on fertile plains, they civilized and taught the listening swains, whilst with high raptures, and as great success, virtue they clothed in music's charming dress. This Merlin spoke, who in his gloomy cave even Destiny herself seemed to enslave. For to his sight the future time was known much better than to others is their own. And with such state predictions from him fell, as if he did decree and not foretell. This spoke King Arthur, who, if fame be true, could have compelled mankind to speak it too. In this once Boadicea valour taught, and spoke more nobly than her soldiers fought. Tell me, what hero could be more than she, who fell at once for fame and liberty? Nor could a greater sacrifice belong, or to her children's or her country's wrong. This spoke Caractacus, who was so brave, that to the Roman fortune check he gave, and when their yoke he could decline no more, he it so decently and nobly wore, that Rome herself with blushes did believe, a Briton would the law of honour give, and hastily his chains away she threw, lest her own captive else should her subdue. 87. To the Countess of Thanet upon her marriage. Since you who credit to all wonders bring, that lovers can believe or poets sing, whose only shape and fashion does express, your virtue is your nature, not your dress. In whom the most admired extremes appear, humble and fair, prudent and yet sincere, whose matchless worth transmits such splendid rays, as those that envy it are forced to praise. Since you have found such an illustrious sphere, and are resolved to fix your glories there, a heart whose bravery to his sex secures as much renown as you have done to yours, and whose perfections in obtaining you are both discovered and rewarded too. 'Twere almost equal boldness to invent how to increase your merit or content. Yet sure the Muses somewhat have to say, but they will send it you a better way. The court which so much to your lustre owes, must also pay you its officious vows. But whilst this shows respect, and those their art, let me too speak the language of my heart, whose ruder offerings dare approach your shrine, for you who merits theirs can pardon mine. Fortune and virtue with such heat contend, as once for Rome, now to make you their friend. As you so well can this prefer to that, as you can neither fear nor mend your fate. Yet since the votes of joy from all are due, a love like mine must find some wishes too. May you, in this bright constellation set, still show how much the good outshine the great. May you be courted with all joys of sense, yet place the highest in your innocence, whose praise may you enjoy, but not regard, finding within both motive and reward. May fortune still to your commands be just, yet still beneath your kindness or your trust. May you no trouble either feel or fear, but from your pity for what others wear. And may the happy owner of your breast still find his passion with his joys increased, whilst every moment your concern makes known, and gives him too fresh reason for his own. And from their parents may your offspring have all that is wise and lovely, soft and brave. Or if all wishes we in one would give, for him and for the world, long may you live. 88. Epitaph on her son H.P. at St. Sith's Church, where her body also lies interred. What on earth deserves our trust? Youth and beauty both are dust. Long we gathering are with pain what one moment calls again. 7 years childless marriage past, a son is born at last. So exactly limbed and fair, full of good spirits, mien and air, as a long life promised, yet in less than 6 weeks dead. Too promising, too great a mind in so small room to be confined. Therefore, as fit in heaven to dwell, he quickly broke the prison shell. So the subtle alchemist can't with Hermes' seal resist the powerful spirit's subtler flight, but 'twill bid him long good night. And so the sun, if it arise, half so glorious as his eyes, like this infant, takes a shroud, buried in a morning cloud. 89. On the death of my Lord Rich, only son to the Earl of Warwick, who died of smallpox, 1664. Have not so many lives of late sufficed to quench the greedy thirst of fate? Though to increase the mournful purple flood, as well as noble, she drank royal blood. That not content against us to engage our own wild fury and usurper's rage, by sickness now, when all that storm is past, she strives to hew our heroes down as fast. And by the prey she chooses, shows her aim is to extinguish all the English fame. Else had this generous youth we now have lost been still his friend's delight and country's boast, and higher raised the illustrious name he bore, than all our chronicles had done before. Had death considered ere he struck this blow, how many noble hopes 'twould overthrow, the genius of his house, who did complain that all her worthies now died o'er again, his flourishing and yet untainted years, his father's anguish and his mother's tears, sure he had been persuaded to relent, nor had for so much early sweetness sent that fierce disease which knows not how to spare the young, the great, the knowing, or the fair. But we as well might flatter every wind, and court the tempest to be less unkind, as hope from churlish death to snatch his prey, who is as furious and as deaf as they, and who hath cruelly surprised in him his parents' joy and all the world's esteem. Say, treacherous hopes that whisper in our ear, still to expect some steady comfort here, and though we oft discover all your arts, would still betray our disappointed hearts. What new delusion can you now prepare, since this pale object shows how false you are? 'Twill fully answer all that you have to plead, if we reply, great Warwick's heir is dead. Blush, human hopes and joys, and then be all in solemn mourning at this funeral. For since such expectations brittle prove, what can we safely either hope or love? 90. The Virgin. The things that make a virgin please, she that seeks will find them these: a beauty, not to art in debt, rather agreeable than great; an eye wherein at once do meet the beams of kindness and of wit; an undissembled innocence, apt not to give nor take offence; a conversation at once free from passion and from subtlety; a face that's modest yet serene, a sober and yet lively mien; the virtue which does her adorn, by honour guarded, not by scorn; with such wise lowliness endued as never can be mean or rude; that prudent negligence enrich, and times her silence and her speech; whose equal mind does always move, neither a foe nor slave to love; and whose religion strong and plain, not superstitious nor profane. End of Part 9.